Now you need 4 gallons of high quality earthworm castings. If you're just starting your first soil, I'm guessing you don't have red wiggler worms laying around, so this is a crucial addition. Once you get things going, you can also purchase red wigglers and put them directly into the pot, and then they will populate the entire pot and remain in the soil throughout the recycling process. So you only have to buy those pricey castings once. If you do things correctly, you'll have a lifetime supply of worm castings after your first cycle. After that, you want a half a cup of green sand. Green sand may sound something like you might want to skip, like who wants to throw sand into the garden? But this isn't just normal sand. Green sand is actually made from mineral deposits left over from ancient oceans. It's harvested from the sandy rocks left behind from now receded oceans. It's also a gentle source of potassium, and it has over 30 trace minerals from its ancient past. These trace minerals could make the difference between just surviving or thriving plants. After that, you want a half a cup of ground oyster shell and 3/4 of a cup of crushed oyster shell. If you don't have one or the other, just use a little bit more of the opposite. I always want to just go to the beach for these, and probably will in the future, but sometimes it's better to only introduce the bacteria you intend to end up in your garden. After that, use a half a cup of limestone powder, which is basically nature's CalMag. Limestone is also a rock made from ancient ocean-dwelling organisms such as oysters, clams, mussels, and coral, and their ancestors that used calcium carbonate found in seawater to create their shells. So it's mainly calcium carbonate, a great useful source of calcium, but it also contains considerable amounts of magnesium carbonate, otherwise known as dolomite lime. Naturally being from a seabed, limestone contains many micronutrients. It's basically nature's CalMag on steroids. I also add half a cup of Epsom salt, which is magnesium sulfate. Epsom salt has many uses and it is a great addition to the garden, so you can be sure to have plenty of calcium and magnesium in your mix, and the sulfates also add to the flavor of the end product. Just be sure to avoid any scented versions. I recommend using Dr. Teal's. Then you want a 1/4 cup of silica. Although silica is not essential for plant growth and development, it can provide many benefits. It helps strengthen cell walls, guard against environmental stresses, and improves the uptake of water and minerals, and adds an extra level of protection against fungal diseases such as powdery mildew. Silica seems to promote an alkalizing effect in heavy soil, partially because of the release of antioxidant enzymes that assuage oxidative stress. Leaves of plants with silica exposure also contain higher amounts of chlorophyll, which could make them more efficient. Now, if you don't have limestone powder, you can also add a half a cup of dolomite lime or add a 1/4 cup of extra Epsom salt. I add both anyway. If you don't have one of these sources of calcium, just add another to make up for the lack of it. Just make sure you add an extra calcium one way or another. Then you have a 1/4 cup of powdered rock phosphate, also known as rock dust, which is a type of non-detrital sedimentary rock packed with phosphate mineralization called apatite. It contains other trace minerals, but mainly a great slow-release source of phosphorus to get your plants through the flowering phase. Another calcium source to add is gypsum powder. This is another sedimentary rock mainly composed of calcium sulfate, and is softer since it is formed by only evaporation, and it provides a quick release of calcium and a slow release of sulfates. Believe it or not, it's actually used in drywall, and because of its binding abilities, it's a primary agent in some toothpaste and also plasters for some medical casts. But I wouldn't recommend that as your go-to sources, since the other chemicals in drywall would contaminate your soil. In its natural form though, it is safe to eat and is used as an additive in many foods, and it is used in brewing beer and mead and many other uses. Now you want plenty of kelp meal. This calls for 3 cups. Kelp seaweed is a type of marine algae that grows by filtering seaweed and absorbing nutrients, so it grows fast as it collects many vital nutrients, and it can help your plant grow fast too. It's moderately rich in all 3 of the main macronutrients, nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, and it has many micronutrients. It's light enough to be used on early seedlings to give a boost of nutrients early as possible, but it also has many of the things your plants need for all phases of growth. 2 cups of alfalfa meal is also a good thing to add. You can add up to 6 cups or go crazy, or you can also grow this as a cover crop. Alfalfa is a grass, but alfalfa meal is actually made from the plant's seeds. It's light and airy, and it has a pleasant earthy smell. It contains macro and micronutrients, including iron, and it helps regulate the soil pH along with your calcium sources. Then you want a quarter cup of humic acid ore. Granular humic acid is unaltered oxidized lignite. It is the rich substances left over from organic plant materials. Think of marshes. It's organic matter that hasn't quite reached the state of coal due to its high oxidation degree, and it has no value as fuel other than for your soil. After further research, I found out that lignite is actually coal, and leonardite is just the formation of humic acid from the oxidation of lignite. So, humic acid is what comes from the oxidation of coal. And now it's very stable and it's unlikely to change much more over time. This is an essential ingredient to getting a healthy